This is Duke University.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to ask that you please stand. On behalf of the faculty and staff, I present to you the Master of Management in Clinical Informatics, Class of 2013. Please join me in giving them a rousing round of applause. You may be seated. I am Kathy Amato, and I had the pleasure of being the Associate Dean for this program for much of their experience here. As they will tell you, I segued away partway through, but I'm thrilled to be back here for their graduation. Joining me on the podium this evening are Dean Bill Boulding, Dean of the Fuqua School of Business, Kelvin Baggett, who will be our commencement speaker, and Jennifer Francis, the Senior Associate Dean for Programs here at Fuqua. We also have here in the front row some faculty and staff who had the pleasure of working with the graduates. We are all absolutely thrilled to celebrate this day with the graduates and with you, their family and friends. Commencement is a very interesting experience, especially for those of us who work in higher education, because it really is the celebration of them commencing, moving on to something new. And we are particularly excited for this class because when they commence, they leave us to go out and really shape the future of healthcare. And we can't imagine a more exciting vocation for people to choose. But for those of us who work with them, it also, in all honesty, is a very bittersweet moment. We're thrilled to have this opportunity to celebrate their moving on to the new, exciting futures that they came here hoping to form. But it's also very difficult for us to say goodbye to them because of all they've meant to us over this past year. So before we actually celebrate the commencement, I'd like to ask you to take just a few minutes reflecting back with me on what this year has meant to all of us. And there are three groups in this room, quite honestly, who are a part of framing this year. And I'm going to start with the family and friends. because you are actually the unsung heroes of what happened this year. We know you made tremendous sacrifices to make this year possible, that you stood by these students and really helped every step of the way as they worked through this very rigorous program. We don't know the individual sacrifices that you made to make this possible, but we deeply, deeply appreciate the fact that you supported them and basically loaned them to us so we could have this fabulous year. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts. The second group that I'd like to touch on are the faculty and staff who had the opportunity to work with the members of the class. And what people who don't work in higher education seldom understand is education is a transformative experience. Students tend to think they are the only ones who are transformed, but you transformed us. And you transformed us in so many meaningful ways. It is difficult for us to thank you. You challenged us, you really encouraged us to be the best that we could be. And you have not only transformed us individually, you have really helped to shape what the future of this program will be. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts for that transformative experience. Most importantly, of course, we need to talk about you. And it's important to me, for those of you in the audience, to understand what a remarkable class this has been. When you work with students, you always wonder when an incoming class is coming in what they will be like. And all classes are good. We've never had a bad one here at the Fuqua School. But there are some classes who truly are absolutely remarkable. They come together in a way that it's almost magic. And this class was such a class. They represent the diversity that you would want in an experience like this. They really cover the gamut in terms of healthcare and healthcare IT. And they actually embraced that diversity to create an amazingly rich learning environment where the debate was at the highest level, the learning was truly transformative, and we know that they are going to leave us being the leaders that we hope they will be in the world of healthcare. But what is really remarkable about them is life happens over the course of an academic program. It's not just about what happens in the classroom. And there were joys for this class. There were babies born, there were romances that blossomed, there were fantastic new jobs that were landed, there were new homes created. And they celebrated that with each other to the fullest extent. They created a very warm and vibrant community. But as you can imagine, in a 12-month time frame, there were some challenges, there were some difficulties. There were members of this class who faced some very deep personal challenges. This class walked through those challenges as a class. No one ever felt alone. They knew they had the members of the class of 2013 there with them every step of the way. So when we look to the future to see the type of leaders we know they are going to be, we know they are going to lead with wisdom, we know they are going to lead with compassion, we know they are going to lead with thoughtfulness, and we know they are going to lead with tremendous heart. So it has just been an absolute joy to have this year with you. Now, having reflected back on how special they are, we need to look forward to sending this special group of people out into the world. So at this time, I'd like to ask Casey Overman to come forward. He is a member of the class of 2013, and he's going to present the Excellence in Teaching Award. Thank you, Casey.
Thank you, Kathy. First, on behalf of my classmates and myself, I want to say thank you to our friends and our families and to the faculty who helped us enable today. Without your support today, would not have been possible. When we started this program last August, we were told that this would transform us fundamentally. I hope to echo that sentiment by saying that we've become better individuals in the last 12 months, and I'm honored to express our gratitude to the faculty, administration, and the parents and family for your guidance and support throughout the year on behalf of my classmates. The transformation was the process by which most of us were given an opportunity to reflect ourselves what we learned at Fuqua. One of the most valuable resources that facilitated our learning is the exceptional faculty, and we've been very fortunate to learn from some of the brightest and most interesting minds in the fields. I want to thank all of the faculty, staff, and administrators for their commitment to providing a space where we could learn and explore different ways to approach a problem and develop new muscles that we can use to advance ourselves in our careers. This year's recipient of the Excellence in Teaching Award certainly excelled in motivating us with passion and concern that we should not stop merely because we don't understand the surface material, but made us consider new ways to understand how effective change comes about and what we can do to promote that environment that strives for continuous improvement. In addition, his novel use of technology in the classroom improved the interaction between teachers and students and promoted rapid engagement from multiple points of view that were created. In his final lecture, he quoted Mahatma Gandhi's challenge to be the change that we wish to see in ourselves and the world. On behalf of the MMCI class of 2013, I want to present Professor Jeremy Petranka with this year's Excellence in Teaching Award. Thank you, Jeremy, for providing us insight on how to provide leadership for changing ourselves and others in the years that lie beyond this program. Congratulations.
I'm not going to use that mic because I'm about a foot ahead of it. Anyway, this is actually going to be shorter than I thought because Kathy stole my thunder. Everything she said, I could not agree with more. I truly believe the value of a teaching award is exactly equal to the quality of students that give it to you. I honestly can't tell you how humbling this is for me, how much I think of your class. That I love teaching, I think that's fairly obvious. Your class is different. Normally classes really don't have the different kinds of backgrounds that you guys have. And when you come in, my natural thought was this could be a challenge. How do you hit on a level that doesn't make the IT folk bored when I'm talking IT, and the clinicians roll their eyes when I'm trying to talk about actually what happens with patient care. And what was so amazing about your class is by the time I got there, you really, talk about strategic alignment, but you guys were aligned in a way that was so amazing that your skill sets, where one person might have been stronger and over here they might have been stronger, the way you came together was truly remarkable. The caliber of your work, the caliber of your discussions, I can honestly say, I learned so much from your class. And what you guys brought to the class, it was a joy every time I talked to you guys, because I left, they're laughing. But it really was. And because of that, this means so much to me. I said it in class, I'll say it again, I'll say it repeatedly. I truly believe this field in the next 10 to 20 years will transform medicine, will transform healthcare in America and the world. I could not be more optimistic and more excited as a patient that you guys will be leading that transformation, period.
Congratulations, Jeremy, on this much-deserved honor. I think it's clear to everyone the impact he had on this class, so way to go. It is a Fuqua tradition that each graduating class elects a member of the class to serve as the class speaker, the individual who will convey the thoughts the class has about the program as well as their hopes and their dreams for the future. As you can imagine, to be selected the class speaker is an extremely high honor. This class has chosen very wisely in selecting Greg Nelson to be their class speaker. Greg, could you please come forward?
Thank you, Kathy. It's quite an honor to be here today, not only with friends and family, but the professors who taught us, the leadership who shared their insights with us, and I promise to have you out of here before they turn off the air conditioning. This talk is not for you, the graduating class. This talk is for the friends and family that have been here to support us, that Kathy talked about, that Jeremy talked about. Not only our favorite professors, or the staff at Fuqua, or the folks in the School of Medicine that nurtured us along our way. This is for the friends and family that will be with us long after the memories of Fitbit and the North Carolina Health Exchange and credit right, debit left. This talk is for those who will help watch and support us as we climb our mountains and celebrate achievements that we'll make along the way and be there to support us when we don't. I realized at least this year, part of it was spent waiting to live my life after graduation, after midterms, after finals, after this paper is done. My clients were patient as I pleaded with them to wait just one more week until finals were done. My family understood that I had to study for corporate finance over the holidays. My friend John is still waiting for us to resume our workout schedule. The mantra around our home was, you could do anything for a year. While we were in school, life continued. We celebrated life with the birth of children, and at least one more along the way. And I'm still holding out hope that you're going to name that after me. Let's just hope it's a boy. Some attended funerals, others waited for the results of surgeries. Work continued, and post-graduation worries occupied our minds. With this newfound reprieve of time, we're done waiting. We now have to resume our lives. We have to continue. No more excuses. You know, I see those smiling faces, and I got a chance to talk and meet with many of the parents, many of the friends, many of the family that are here to support those folks, and I see the pride in your faces. Take a moment to enjoy, to reflect, to celebrate. That's what today is really all about. I said this speech is for friends and family, not only to thank them for their support, but also to help understand, as Kathy talked about, this transformative change that happened this year, and to understand that we are not the people that we started out. This degree is not our life's culmination. While an achievement of substance, this was simply part of the process of becoming, an inflection point in our careers and on the way that we think about the world around us. We all came to Fuqua with a shared passion. Healthcare is important, and the intersection of medicine and technology and data can be brought together to change the world. This degree will no doubt open doors, spark conversations, and even launch careers. But the degree cannot solve the problems that we face in healthcare. It will be these graduates and countless others that will spend the time and the energy. It will be their passion. It will be their commitment to solving problems that will help solve those problems in healthcare. I remember teeming with anticipation as I sat in an auditorium on August 17th of 2012. Then Acting Dean Boulding came to talk to us about Fuqua, about the Duke University, about what we were about to embark upon. Little did we know. He said we were about generating insights and providing leaders. He framed his conversation around three trends: globalization, interdependence, that was on purpose, and disruption. He talked about leadership, and not just about getting good jobs or being in charge. He talked about becoming leaders of consequence. Leaders of consequence, that's a pretty heavy term to put on a bunch of kids coming back to school. And I count myself when I say kids. I knew in an instant that my life had changed and would change as a result of knowing that my responsibility was to become a leader of consequence. Another inflection point along the way, like many before that, the day I walked into the Marine Corps recruiting office, the day my mother called and said my father had passed away, at 55 years old, sitting in a lazy boy. The birth of my daughter. The day I married up. I've had a lifetime of careers: a salesman, a police officer, a fisherman in Alaska, an academic, a CEO, and now a student. Becoming a leader of consequence. It's hard to say that without thinking about the gravity of what you're being asked to do. To me, it's more than just being a leader. It's about making a difference. Just as Dean Boulding articulated over a year ago, it means that the future is in our hands. It means that we will change the world for better or for worse. It means that we have a choice that when we think about disruption, do we worry about its impact on us, or do we use it as a catalyst for change? Becoming a leader of consequence means recognizing that ambition is to be tempered with personal humility, personal accountability, integrity. It's about leading with both our strengths and our weaknesses. Becoming a leader of consequence is about making a difference. For the MMCI class of 2013, the mission is clear: to make a difference in healthcare. Regardless of your personal political views, the Affordable Care Act has changed and will continue to change the face of healthcare for years to come. Much like the advent of the stethoscope in the 1840s, or because of this disruption caused by the Great Depression, the advent and the introduction of insurance into our society, Medicaid and Medicare in the 1960s, we are at yet another inflection point in healthcare. We're getting better. We use technology to manage information. We're getting wiser about understanding the quality of data and its importance for us in making decisions. We're advancing our ability to connect and collaborate through health information exchanges. And there certainly have been strides in analytic technologies, which is one of my personal favorites. Some have argued that the changes in healthcare through the use of EHR, communication technology, and analytics will be as important as any of those previous inflection points. Noted business guru Warren Bennett said that leadership is the capacity to translate vision into reality. It's our responsibility as leaders of consequence to make our mark on this strategic inflection point. Whether we're a consumer or a participant in the provision of healthcare, it's our responsibility that we face these monumental challenges front on. We want to reduce the cost of healthcare. We want to improve the quality and outcomes, and certainly make access to healthcare more affordable and efficient for folks. Equipped with the tools of strategy, marketing, operations, supply chain management, corporate finance, and yes, accounting. We load up our tool chest with the foundations of business. We load in health IT and secondary use, decision modeling, and of course, don't forget ethics. But more importantly, we have the continued support of our friends and family, this newly minted degree from Duke University Fuqua School of Business. That's pretty awesome. And a perspective that will be changed forever about how we think about healthcare and how we think about problems. Healthcare doesn't have to be too big or too complex. In fact, sometimes taking a different perspective, a simple perspective change, can change the way you view the world. I want to share with you a story in closing. The story was relayed to me by Don Clifton, the former CEO of Gallup, the Gallup organization, and my personal mentor. We talk about the complexity of the world and sometimes looking at that and problems in different ways. He relayed the story of a 7-year-old girl who was in school, and the teacher had asked, write a story on how to do something. Most of her classmates were writing on how to bake cookies. One little boy wrote on how to change the tire on his dad's car. This little girl had a little more ambition. She was going to write on how to catch an alligator. And she was very matter of fact. She said, you need 6 things to catch an alligator. Not 5 things, not 7 things, 6 things to catch an alligator. You need a pillow and a blanket. You need a stick. You need a pair of binoculars, a pair of tweezers, and a matchbox. She proceeded to say, in order to catch an alligator, you have to go where alligators are. So you go down by the river. And since there aren't always alligators just sitting around, that's why you brought the stick. You took it and you riled up the water. And since alligators, of course, are very curious animals, the alligator will want to know what's going on. Well, she also was smart. She recognized that alligators are slow. Sometimes they swim very slow. And so that's what the pillow and the blanket are for. She's going to lay down and take a nap. But because she laid down and took a nap first, she recognized that the alligator would finally get there, look and see what's going on over here, and he would take notice of the little girl sleeping and say, sleeping's going on. So the alligator would climb right up, right on the pillow and the blanket, lay down next to her. But because she went on her nap first, she knew she would wake up first. So of course she woke up, she stepped back, picked up the binoculars, turned them around, and with a tiny alligator in her sights, she took the tweezers and put them in a matchbox. Sometimes when we face a hurdle that seems challenging, we simply need to think about the problem differently. This program is designed, and I quote, to train informaticians and health professionals to thoughtfully apply technology in order to improve the performance of providers, payers, and regulators, to enhance patient care, and to promote the translation of scientific discovery into clinical practice. Are you up for the challenge? We are forever changed. Friends and family, I would simply ask that you recognize that this change has occurred, support us on our journey. We will never be the same. We will change the world.
Greg, you've inspired us all year long, so it's very fitting that you inspired us yet again today. Thank you so much. At this point, I'd like to ask Dean Boulding to come forward to introduce our commencement speaker.
Greg, wonderful speech, and two remarkable things. One, I believe you are the first student ever who remembered anything that a dean said at orientation. Actually scares me a little bit. The second thing is that you said what I would want to say only better than I could say it, so thank you. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce another speaker, Kelvin Baggett, and it is really hard to get just the right graduation speaker, because what you're looking for is you're looking for someone who has the experiences and the wisdom and the insight to speak to a group of graduates in a meaningful way. And you also want someone who can do that and at the same time be a role model, an exemplar for what it is that you can achieve. And so with Kelvin Baggett, we have both of those things in an extraordinary way. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about who Kelvin is and how he got here. So Kelvin is actually a native North Carolinian, and I'm very pleased that his family is here with him today. Born and raised in Fayetteville, and then went to the University of North Carolina for his undergraduate education. And one of the themes that you've been hearing about throughout your program is difficult integration. So here we have a UNC person who's going to be speaking to a group of Duke graduates. And so he is clearly skilled at integration of different perspectives. From there, he went on to get his medical degree from East Carolina University, and then in a flurry of activity, proceeded to have residencies and fellowships at some places like Yale, Duke, Johns Hopkins, and picked up a Master's of Public Health from Johns Hopkins along the way, and of course, most importantly, as a way of putting everything together from that set of experiences, an MBA from the Fuqua School. And so, again, Kelvin is clearly a master at bringing different perspectives together in a way that would allow him to accomplish exactly what Greg was talking about, which is to make a difference, to change the world. And so he has gone on to an incredibly distinguished career post-Fuqua. He went to Hospital Corporation of America initially and was the Chief Operating Officer of the Clinical Services Group before moving to Tenet Healthcare. And at Tenet, he is the Senior Vice President of Clinical Operations and the Chief Medical Officer. If you think about what it is we're looking for in our graduates, we are looking for people of consequence, people who will change the world. And one way of thinking about this is that we're looking for people who will do important work, who will do it well, and who will bring it to scale. What Kelvin is doing could be no more important in terms of making a difference in the healthcare delivery, in the lives of literally millions of people. Today, Tenet is serving over 8 million patients. With the current acquisition that's underway, that number is probably going to grow to 14 million patients. So you think about impact and scale, it's an incredible opportunity to change the world, and I'm completely confident that because this is in Kelvin's hands, that it will be done well. Not only will it be done well, but it's going to be done with this incredible combination of humility, personal humility. Kelvin, despite all his accomplishments, is one of the most humble people you could meet, and yet an incredible ambition to change the world. That is what motivates him, and that's what I think is why he went through, I don't know how many years of education, and I was teasing his parents this morning that they apparently set him on this path of saying education is important. And I asked, did you ever get to a point where maybe this was enough education, it's time to get a real job? But he has put that education together in a way that he truly can make a difference, and what motivates him is the ability to serve people and to make a difference in the lives so that he can live a life of consequence. Kelvin, could I please ask you to come up to the podium?
Thank you very much, Dean Bolden, for that introduction, and I'm certain that there were points along the way that my parents did question if I had both learned the lesson and understood when I should stop. I want to say also thank you to the faculty, staff, and the students. It's always a pleasure to get invited to come back home. And Fuqua, Dean Bolden said that I am from North Carolina, and North Carolina is my home, but Duke is truly my home. And that's saying a lot given the fact that, as he did say, I started and completed my undergraduate education at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. I'm honored to be here with you, and I want to congratulate the MMCI class of 2013 as well. This is a tremendous accomplishment. I'm going to say a few things as I spend time and share some thoughts with you today, but I want to make sure that I do say the world needs you. You're exactly what we've been waiting for. You are the change agents. You are the people who will transform healthcare in ways that are going to be significant and substantial, and I am so incredibly excited for your futures. Your decision to come here, I know, was Probably not the easiest thing to enroll in this. And as Bill said, with my kind of winding course, I tell people all the time that these paths are not linear. As much as you might want to try to lay things out, there are things that come along in your life and change. As Greg was mentioning, there are life events. And then there are also opportunities. Opportunities like this. 4 years ago, this program did not exist. An ability to integrate disciplines in a way to provide translators for healthcare and true change agents. And really the label I like to assign to you as well is something that I've adopted recently after having spent time with someone who's regarded internationally for this, and he is regarded as a futurist. And he says, you know, what I do is I help to predict the future. What's even better is you're actually going to get to shape the future. And that is a wonderful opportunity. As I thought about the remarks that I'd make, I also reflected on my graduation. So I graduated from Fuqua in 2006. I was asked this morning, do I consider myself to be a graduate of the 04 class or the 06 class, because I took a couple years off to pursue a fellowship. And most importantly, I just consider myself to be a graduate of Fuqua and, of course, Duke. But as I was thinking through that, I said, you know, when I sat here in 2006, there was some relief. Accounting was over. Corporate finance, oh my. Corporate finance was over. And so I had that relief and I had excitement, but there was also some mix of anxiety. How am I going to use these new, incredible skills and experiences to go out and really shape the world? What will my place and space be, and how am I going to get to do more and have an even greater impact? So I'll give you a little bit of color around that. So Bill talked about parts of my course. Well, just imagine this. I'm the first person in my family to become a physician. I had desired to become a physician since I was a little kid. And so I'd done those things that you're supposed to do. Medical school, gotten that, checked my residency. And in residency around 2000, I decided, you know what? I'm going to do something else. I'm going to go to business school. Now, I've got to reconcile that in my own head, but then I've also got to share that with my family, my mother and father at that point. I've also got to share that with other friends and advisors. And as common as it may be today for individuals to combine these dual degrees, or in some cases even more, at that time, a physician saying that I want to go learn the business was not necessarily embraced. As a matter of fact, I got some very strong comments and criticisms. Fortunately, my parents were incredibly supportive. They said, okay, you've always made good decisions, and something along those lines, so okay, that's fine if that's what you want to do. Fortunately, I also had no obligations. It wasn't like I had to deal with anything else from a family support perspective. But my advisors and friends were more difficult. As a matter of fact, one of my closest friends cursed me out on numerous occasions and tried to shock me and shake me back to reality, telling me that I was making one of the biggest mistakes of my life. Why didn't I just go and do the traditional practice? He was a doctor. And love the profession and not worry about this other stuff that I was talking about getting into. Fortunately, he's come around because of some of the things that have developed. But I say that to bring forward a point of you've got to listen to your heart and listen to your own gut and your own intuition. And I'd like to say now that, oh, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I knew exactly where this was going to take me. But it wasn't quite that clear. But what kept calling me was something that said, you can do something different. You can do something more. You can change things. And I'll raise my hand. I've never been too accepting of the status quo. I've always looked for ways to say, why is it being done that way? And how can we actually do it differently? And how do we make it better? I love that Gandhi quote, because you actually do have to be the change. Somebody has to take on that responsibility. And the question that I've raised to myself, and I know you've probably asked yourself as well, is, but why not you? I've never, and at times that's problematic, I've never settled for the average. Like the average will work. Well, that's what average people do, or that's just an acceptance of the way things are, and that's our reality. The question is always, how do we change that? How do I get to participate in that? And it has not been because I feel, and probably like you, that I need to be acknowledged or credited for it. I have a motto: I don't care who gets the credit. We'll distribute that. But the most important thing is for us to do something great together. I say it to our CEO, who's my boss, far too often, and I say, there's a reason that we were put on this earth, in this place, at this time, together. And that means there's something that we're going to be able to do together that is far greater than we could do individually. We may not know it, but listen to that voice that is pulling you and that is calling you. So that's part of that. Listen to your own gut. Listen to your own intuition and be guided by that in the decisions and choices that you make. We talked at breakfast this morning, and I said I was going to bring this up because now, having been accepted to business school, I had to make a choice as to where I was going to go. I remember, I'm still having to reconcile this. I'm a Tar Heel undergrad who's now got accepted to one of the best business schools in the world. But it's Duke. And fortunately, there were things that had happened during my interview that my mother, who's incredibly wise, reminded me of. When I came to interview for school here, I had conversations and interviews, and I had an interview with a student that was supposed to last, I'm looking at Liz, I think it was about 30 minutes, and we ended up speaking for about an hour and a half. And that was not about just what the curriculum was and what the school could offer me, but it was a genuine interest in what is it exactly that you want to do? What are the things that you're talking about? And she said, okay, now that we're done, this isn't on your schedule, but I'm going to take you and introduce you to someone else. And I talked to that person. I said, I'm going to introduce you to someone else. And I ended up talking to that individual and said, now you're going to come with me and we're going to go to the health sector management office because you need to spend time with them as well. And I ended up spending time there. And every point along the way, people were listening to me, encouraging me, and there was kind of this shared belief in, if you think you can change the world, my thing has always been change the world through healthcare. If you think you can change the world through healthcare, then we're not going to kill them. And they were engaged in that. And before I could walk out of the building for my interview, I spent about an hour. Now, my home is Fayetteville. I'd flown in from Connecticut and said, I'm going to go home and spend time with my family. And so I had about an hour and a half drive. Well, before I got in the car, I spent about an hour on the phone talking to my mother. And that was around the phenomenal day that I had had. And so when I got the email, we got an email. I don't know what you get today. We got an email that said, you are accepted, and this thing flashes up, and there are all these applause. I kept that email for years until somehow I lost that email account. But I kept that email, and I'd play it every now and then because that moment was so incredible for me, just opening up and experiencing that. So I'd worked through that, and I'm talking to Liz. And at that point, I had both applied to business schools, and I had also applied to a fellowship program. And I got accepted to both. And I said, well, Liz, I've gotten accepted to some business schools, and but I've also got accepted to this fellowship. I definitely want to do the MBA, but this fellowship won't allow me to defer. And they frown significantly on reapplication. So I only have a year post-residency that I can actually devote to anything else. And I then would move into this fellowship. I'm standing in my clinic at, this is my third year of residency, so the end for me. I'm on the phone with Liz, and I said, so I'm going to have to say no to Duke, but I'm going to apply again next year, and then I'll be able to come after my fellowship, which is 2 years. And she said, tell me exactly what this does, and tell me again what it is that you want to do. Tell me what it is what you want to do. Share that with me. And she said, don't tell me no, and give me about an hour, and I'm going to call you back. And I'm saying, I don't know how this is going to work out because I know you got to do these 2 years and all these things. And she called me back a couple hours later, and she said, we're going to make this happen for you. She said, we're going to help you to do both the fellowship and do your MBA because we believe in what you're doing. And that's one of those moments where I'm reminded, and I share with you, that it's also important to share your dreams with others and get the buy-in and support, get the sponsorship, let them be there for you. And because of that, I was able to do these things and actually construct a professional journey, which has been incredibly satisfying and has also been incredibly fulfilling and I think value creating. So I came to Fuqua. Now, I came to Fuqua and I was nervous because I went to one of these mixers early on. And I was with people who had backgrounds in finance, consulting, accounting, marketing, and I had actually read the 10-day MBA. And that's kind of what I knew. And I don't even know if that book is still out. I'm assuming that it is. But I had my red copy. I'd leafed through it. I thought I knew some stuff until I started hearing them, and they talk about stuff, and they had such advanced knowledge. And I went, man, this is so foreign. So that was a moment of anxiety, several moments of anxiety and nervousness along the way. But what I got quickly was this Team Fuqua thing, it really is here. It really does exist. And it's supported and it's encouraged. And I came and I developed friendships and relationships. I came and probably like you, I recognized deficits in my knowledge base, but I got help. I remember being in the computer lab and not knowing how to do some things in spreadsheets and having somebody sit elbow to elbow with me, still one of my dearest friends today, a guy named Tyrone Thomas. And Tyrone saying, I'm going to show you how to do this. And a couple other guys saying, I'm going to show you how to do this. And it was midnight, maybe 1 o'clock, and we were working through things together. And along the path, they continued to do that. And what I also recognized was that this team construct and how it's built. I mean, just think about it. I mean, even in your class, people with such diverse backgrounds and interests, people who are coming from different geographies and perspectives, coming together and getting placed together, again, at this time, to actually do something great and actually to leverage each other's strengths and capabilities. As my experience in corporate America, what I can tell you is we need more of that. In healthcare, we need more of that. What we don't do well is team. What we don't do well is recognize that we have to unite around a common purpose and a common goal, something bigger than ourselves, and something that we probably cannot do alone as an individual. And then say, how do we get this done together? How do we take the best of who you are, the best of who I am, and what I bring to the table, and make the sacrifices that are necessary, those sacrifices that family and friends have made to get us all through this process. But how do we do that? How do we let go of the ego? How do we let go of our titles and our positions? And then how do we do this in such a way that we can celebrate at the end? When I was a resident, I used to tell when I was an attending, I used to tell my residents and interns that if you win, nobody typically asks you a whole lot of questions about how you won, especially when it comes to caring for patients, right? If patients get better, people go, great. Wow, thank you. But if they get worse, if they decline, if teams don't perform well, if things don't function, if businesses fail, we don't meet expectations, you got a lot of questions to answer, a lot of explaining to do. And that's not where you want to be. When you come together and you unite and you unify and you win, that's satisfying for you and others, and you get to move beyond that. That gives you a true purpose and allows you to do more in the future as well. I was talking to Bill, we're doing an acquisition right now, and I've spent a lot of late nights working on that still, and one of the things that came to me is I look through people and I think about the organization and what the structure is going to look like, and I get feedback from my colleagues and some of the people at the company that we're acquiring is I'm hearing things about people, and most people aren't saying these people aren't smart. Like, you usually don't hear, like, this person's just not smart. What you hear sometimes is they're just not effective. And you get down to, so what makes them effective or ineffective or more effective? And that's where that teaming concept, team, comes back. Because they'll say, Well, thinks he knows everything, thinks they can do everything alone, bashes their colleagues, doesn't really work well or play well with others, always concerned about promoting their own ideas and not listening to the ideas of others, very concerned about their title and their positioning, and not really understanding that at times that matters less. If you're in a room, there may be somebody who has a lower title who knows more about that subject than you do, and you'd benefit a lot more from just listening to them and perhaps letting them lead and following their course. And that's a good thing. And as leaders, as you know, that's one of the greatest things that you can do as a demonstration of how confident you are in your own capabilities and your own abilities. So take that team and take it forward. There will be people that you confront who will have their own ideas around the individual, and you will actually be able to counter that and demonstrate success in bringing people together for a higher purpose and a higher calling. So that's part of my Fuqua experience that I want to share with you. As I left Fuqua, I went to the Hospital Corporation of America, which is still currently the largest provider-based operator, and they continued to talk to me throughout my fellowships and business school time, and they said, we don't know exactly what you're going to do, but we really like you, you have some really good ideas, and we're going to figure out a place for you. And they did. And they predominantly let me write my own job description. And so what I will also offer is that's probably available to you more often than you might think, either to take something that exists and to reconstruct it, or take something that's in your own mind and to provide it to someone. I was 10 months in, and I got to write another job description. And at that point, I went from not really having an organizational position, but being promoted to a vice president. So I'm mid-30s, and I'm a vice president in an organization that is very hierarchical. And after they had made that decision and I was getting additional responsibility, I had people who were late stages of their careers who had to report to me. And I was the only vice president who had vice presidents reporting to me. So I go into our CEO's office, who's also a Duke alum a couple of times over. And I said, Jack, people are putting some pushback because they're saying I'm too young. And I won't quote Jack specifically, but he said something along the lines of, that's BS. And he said, I know you can do the job, the board knows you can do the job, and the people in the executive team also know you can do the job. So I'd say you get out of my office and go do your job. And I did. And with that, what I got was he trusted me. They trusted me and had confidence in me. They had expectations that they thought I could meet. But he also needed to kick me in the butt and say, let all that noise go. So I offer that to you to say that there are going to be people out there that say, well, we really can't change it in that way. That's really not something that we should do. We should leave that alone. You're not experienced enough to actually be able to provide those ideas. Why don't you spend some time growing and developing and being groomed, and then maybe you can do that. And my answer to that is kind of like Jack. A lot of that's BS. Some of that's necessary, but some of it, in my southern kind of dialect, ain't. You don't need to go through all of these hoops and hurdles to actually get to a place where you can make a significant contribution. You also don't need to go through all these hoops and hurdles to answer one of the most significant questions that I like to ask and be asked. What is the problem that I can help you solve? All right? You can give insight to that. I've said I'll talk to a burning bush if it can provide me with answers. And so you are much more than that. And so you can truly, truly be that change. The thing that I actually want to say in closing is that what you're doing and what I try to do every day, it's important not to lose sight of why we're doing it. This really is, in my opinion, about patients. And I refer to them about individuals and us. It's about people. I mean, think about it. What you're going to touch is healthcare and technology and systems that actually get to the bedside or to the clinic table in some way. And what we occasionally get caught in is the technical aspects of it or the task orientation of it. But just consider that at the very end of it, there is a person who is vulnerable, who is scared, who is trusting each of us to actually be able to provide these things to their care providers or deliverers so that they can take care of them. And I was reminded of the significance of this recently, just in the last couple of days. So while I was home, I had a relative who was hospitalized, and I went into the hospital, and the hospital was like two different worlds. I went into the emergency department, and everything was on paper. And the nurse, and I'm going through the chart, and she said, "Will you please translate these physician orders and plans for me?" Now, I'm there as a relative, but obviously I'm a doc. And she says, "I can't read it." It was illegible. But I could, because my handwriting's illegible too. And so I went through it, and she said, okay, now I see what he's... And it reminded me of those days when I would moonlight in community hospitals. And I had one in particular where I'd get a paper chart, and occasionally there was a page missing or something was torn out or gone. And it was scary. I had to guess. I had to make the best decisions I could under those circumstances. And I spent a lot of time praying that it was going to be all right. And but that's a very uncomfortable position in which to be. And you're going to actually help us to move far beyond that. So I said this hospital was like two worlds. I went upstairs, and everything was digital. I said, "I'd like to see my loved one's chart," and they've given me permission. She said, "Okay, I'll stand side by side with you, and you can look in the computer." And I could go through everything, labs, notes, and all these other things. And I said, "Now, this is the way it should be. This information is together." But what was still missing was what had happened outside of those walls. Where was the longitudinal information? Where was the pharmacy information? Where was any long-term care information? All these other details. And so you're going to help to bring that together. And what's going to be different about you is the ability to translate, to integrate, to communicate, to be facile, to actually bring things together that are not only technically appropriate, but also match workflow and needs. Because you'll keep an eye on the patient, recognizing that at some point in this journey, each of us will be just that. We will be a person with an identity who is actually now lying in a bed or sitting on a table, asking someone else that we may or may not have a relationship with to help us. And what we want to have confidence in are the tools, the resources, and the information and data that they have at their fingertips, combined with the knowledge that they bring so that they can do that effectively. So having said all of that, I want to close with a quote that used to be on the bottom of my email, which is, "To whom much is given, much is expected." And you've been given a tremendous education. You have, I saw some of the bios, you have incredible backgrounds. And so we're expecting you to go out there and do phenomenal things that create a better life for you and create a better world for the rest of us. Thank you. And by the way, congratulations again.
Thank you, Kelvin, for those fantastic remarks. And when I heard you tell the story about getting pushback because you had become so senior with such youth, it made me start thinking that this is someone who has incredible accomplishment, has risen to the most senior ranks in an organization, has spent years and years and years of education. And so I think that you're probably like a real-life Doogie Howser. Is it? But I would like to, on behalf of the entire Fuqua community, in a very small way, thank you for what you've done in terms of talking to the class and to the friends and family. And I think the incredibly important thing that you reminded us all of is it's not who you are that matters in terms of whether you've lived a life of consequence, it's what you are. And it's your character, it's your passion, and it's the quality of your ideas. And that's what's going to matter in terms of your ability to have impact. So, Kelvin, thank you for being a wonderful role model. So we're now going to transition to the part of the ceremony that I think is of some small interest to the graduates. So Kathy, could you please?
One of the members of the graduating class said to me about 2 weeks ago, "It isn't real until I have that piece of paper in my hand." So it's time to make it real. We're going to ask the graduates to come forward, recognize them all individually. They will be congratulated by Dean Boulding, Kelvin Baggett, Jennifer Francis, myself, as well as everyone assembled here today. Family and friends always want to know what the protocol is. Are you allowed to leave your seat and come forward and take a picture? We welcome your doing so as long as you keep the line of sight clear for everyone else in the audience, as well as for our professional photographer who's here to take a picture of everyone today. So, if you can get down low and catch that great shot, we welcome your doing so. Each graduate will have their moment in the spotlight, so we encourage you to applaud and cheer as you see fit and really celebrate this moment. I'm going to ask Miranda Young to come forward. She has been the program manager for this class, has really shepherded them through every step of the way, and she will be the one who will be actually calling out your names, and then we're going to help get you lined up and get you up here on stage. So let's get going.
Casey Overman. Greg Scott Nelson. Matthew Abraham. Philip and Gwenyi. Melinda Battle. Andrew Charles Blond. Davy Chen. Jun Chiao Chen. Cabo Fan. Ariel Han. Chris Huang. Mitchell Krieger. Vimal Mishra. Bethany Lynn Mondor. Saibal Mukherjee. Bilikis Akindele. Michael Park. Jyothi Raghavendra. Ashish Saxena. Rhett Smith. Melody Staten. Sandy Sue. Lucinda Nicole Vance. Vanessa Jane Walker. Mariam Yunus. Ali Zodmer.
Okay, we're getting very close to the end of the ceremony, and in just a few minutes, we'll all continue the celebration in the Fox Center. I'm going to ask you all to please remain seated until the last student has recessed out. But before we finish things off here, a few things that I'd like to mention. First of all, I'm so happy to have the friends and family with us here today to join in the celebration, and I thank you for your presence and support today. I also thank the wonderful faculty and staff who have made this program possible. But most of all, what I'd like to do now is to speak to the graduating class. So if I could please ask you all to rise. So there are many people to thank who put together a program, but the people that I want to thank right now are all of you. And we take a lot of pride in this thing called Team Fuqua. And I thank you for making sure that Team Fuqua, as a consequence of your having been here and being a part of our community, is now better, stronger, and more inclusive. This group has faced a lot of adversity throughout the program. And when you have adversity, the reaction to that very much depends on the kind of team you have. If you have a team that's not really a strong team, the effect of that adversity means you all go off and you splinter. If you have a strong team, the effect of that adversity is to bring you together, to make you better, to make you stronger. And I'm sure you've all seen teams that have gone in one of those two directions. You've seen both. And we're very, very fortunate that in this instance, the adversity that you faced brought you together and made you stronger, and as a result, made us stronger. I thank you for your passion for an area that is so important to our future. I thank you for making sure that that passion is communicated to us in a way that redoubles our commitment and our understanding that the jobs that all of you will face as you move out into the world, which will require an integration across multiple perspectives, that we drive that same kind of integration within Duke. And the commitment is there from all parts of Duke to make that happen. And I thank you for making sure that we have a future for this program. And so I'm very grateful for your role in that process. Having thanked you, I now want to make some requests of you. The first thing is, I think that what Greg communicated is extremely important. This day is all about you, and justifiably, it's all about you. You've accomplished something that's extraordinary. But the reality is, you would not be standing here today without a group of people who got you here and got you through this experience. And so please, take the time today and in the coming days and weeks and months and years to express your gratitude to all of those people who made it possible for this to be your day. The second thing that I ask of you is, you have an incredible team that you've created. Don't forget that you've created a network that will have enduring value. Don't forget that you need to stay connected to each other in a significant way. And I'm sure your reaction is, well, of course we will. We love each other. Well, we've gone through this roller coaster together, I couldn't imagine not being connected to these people. But I'll tell you what, it requires work. It requires effort. Because each of you is going to move into a new phase of your lives that will be equally, if not more challenging than what you've just gone through. And you're going to be a part of new networks, join new communities, do new things. And it's going to take work to remember, I need to stay connected to the people who got me where I am today. And that's all of you in this class. So please make a conscious effort in that regard. The third thing I would ask of you is to please stay connected to us. Just as you've made a difference for us during your time here, I hope that you will continue to give back and make sure that the students that follow you will have a high quality experience, and that you will give your input, your feedback, your sweat equity to make sure that what you have been a part of gets even better. And I thank Kelvin again as being a role model in terms of making sure that you give back to the people that follow you. The last request that I have of you is in some ways the one that I'm most confident you will achieve, but simultaneously the most challenging thing I will ask of you, which is please take this experience, take the incredible richness of this experience and the perspectives that aligned you together, take that out into the world, into an area that so badly needs your help, where you can do so much to improve the quality of healthcare, to lower the cost, and increase access. You can truly change the world. You can make a difference. And that's all I ask of you, which is go forth, change the world, make a difference, be leaders of consequence. Thank you. So ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the MMCI Class of 2013. It is official.
Produced by Duke University. Online at duke.edu.